A long time ago, long before there was KLEF radio, one of the things I did in the arts was help arts groups with just logistical things. Now, that's a fancy word for driving artists around. And I drove a lot of artists around. But one of the few I can remember by name was Dave Brubeck. Well, to me, Dave Brubeck was bigger than life. And when I met him at the airport, he was bigger than life, but not at all in the way I expected. He was just such a nice man. And he acted like it was the thrill of his life that someone was going to drive him around. I mean, he's Dave Brubeck, and yet he's treating me like I'm the celebrity. So we drove here and we drove there, and one of the things that visiting artists always did back then, if you could arrange it, we called it radio rounds. There were 6 or 8 radio stations, and everyone you could persuade to do an interview, you'd drive one to the other to the other. And I took Dave Brubeck on radio rounds in 1980. Classic radio rounds in those days would have been to KJZZ. Yes, Anchorage had a jazz station. KJZZ, those calls are now down in Arizona. But KJZZ, of course, wanted to talk to Dave Brubeck. They were up on top of what's now called the McKinley Building, but back then it was the McKay Building. And out to KENI, where now is just some transmitters for radio stations, but out on the lagoon. And the best interview of all, the one I remember the best, was to, believe it or not, KGOT, which then and now is still a rocker. And Larry Wayne, who was the program director of KGOT, he was so A, thrilled, and B, intimidated to interview Dave Brubeck. Now, Larry was a rocker through and through, but he knew Dave Brubeck was an important musician. And he told me privately, said, I don't really understand that music, but I know this is an important man. He'll talk to me. And I said, oh yeah, he'll talk to you. And Dave came out of that interview. He and Larry were in there for a good half an hour. And Dave came back and said, I've never enjoyed doing a radio interview any more than that one. That kid's great. He just asked so upfront questions. He didn't know anything, and he didn't pretend he did. He just wanted to know. And he said, it's such a pleasure to talk to somebody like that. He said, maybe I made a jazz fan out of him. I don't know if they turned into a jazz fan, but I know Dave had a good time with you, Larry.